Hey everyone, welcome to Just Vibes with the Click podcast with your boy Peace J. And today we have a special guest with us to talk about electric vehicles, and I'll let them introduce themselves.
Sure. Hey, everybody, and hi, Pete. I am Papi Mabele. I am a motoring journalist. That's what you would know me as. And yeah, I'm so excited to be here with you today and to be talking about EVs and the exciting world of electromobility.
Thank you. So, just to start off with the icebreaker, I just wanted to ask you, if you weren't reviewing cars, what would you be doing?
Geez, I'd probably be living my best life somewhere on an island. I'm kidding. I would be. This is actually what I studied, so I would be a civil engineer by trade.
Serious?
So yeah, that's what I would be doing. Yeah, that's what I would be doing right now.
Oh, that's dope. What's this?
Mm.
My dad is actually a civil engineer.
Ah, nice,
Yeah.
nice. Tell him I said hi. I'm kidding, but yes, that's cool.
Oh, real, man. Oh, real. So
That's cool.
I just want to ask, like, how did you start this whole like reviewing cars? Like how did that all begin?
Sheesh, man. It was actually by. I was actually telling my partner about this. It was actually by coincidence. Look, straight after high school, I studied civil engineering. I finished that, did my articles, did my practicals, and then I did. I went on to, while I was studying, actually, I was writing freelance in my spare time.
Yes.
And then after, once I got into my practicals, I just decided civil engineering wasn't for me. So I decided to pursue marketing, to study that. And while I was still doing that, I was still writing about tech, actually. So it was reviewing tech products, devices, writing about, telecoms and all of that.
Yeah.
So how it happened by chance was that someone that was working on a tech brand actually moved over to a car brand. And when they got there, they were like, yo, Papi, I'm here now, I'm working on cars. Would you be keen to review this new car that we have? It has a lot of tech in it, so it's still within, your beat. So I would like for you to just review it and let me know what you think. So that's how it started. I reviewed my first car then, giving it, a tech kind of like angle to it.
Yeah.
And then from that one car, I just continued getting cars from them. And it just rolled over from this one brand to others that saw my content pieces and articles. And then that's how it just snowballed. And that's how I got into cars. It's not something that I had planned, to be honest. It just kind of happened. That's what I'm saying. Just, fell into my lap. But I just ran with it, man. And it's something that I completely love right now.
That is pretty cool. That is pretty cool. Man. The fact that it went from technology, then like that. But the thing is, I like how cars nowadays are literally becoming more technological. So
yeah,
and especially for the young people, like we really like the advanced techs, just so that as we're driving, like it's made simpler, so so now just to like go through like this new era of electric vehicles, and how that is taking over the world, in some places across the world, electric vehicles are more prominent than your standard diesel petrol vehicles. So with the what's this? I just want to ask, like, with the cars that could you list like the cars that the electric vehicles you have driven, and just tell us more about, what are they like, and how can can maybe the electric vehicle sustain itself through the South African economy?
Sure. Look, if I were to list it, I would say Sure, I will go to start at A with Audi. I've driven pretty much all of their electric vehicles available locally. This is the e-tron range,
Yes.
from the the e-tron 55s to the e-tron GT. Um, driven those. I've driven BMW's line of electric vehicles from the i3 that launched about 10, 15 years ago to the more recent one, the iX and the iX3 and the i4s, to VW's, the one e-Golf they had for just local testing, to one of the ID models that I've driven in Germany,
Okay.
to the Mini Cooper SE, to the Mercedes range of electric vehicles, all of them that are available locally. I've driven to the models from Jaguar, the I-Pace,
Yes.
and some of their plug-in hybrids, given the bigger ones, the Range Rover Sports and them. The list is endless actually. To Volvo's electrified models like the XC40, even the C40 that's launching, we'll be driving it soon in the country. To I'm trying to think. Sorry, some of them might actually escape my mind, but just from the top of my head, trying to think exactly which models I've driven. I think pretty much, it's those cars, that kind of like made their way into the country. For me, I don't like referring to myself as an EV specialist, but I kind of like specialize in EVs, especially when it comes into the motor journaling world. That's my forte. I'm a big fan of EVs. For me, it's all about educating people and making them aware of exactly what they are, how they work, and how they can fit into your lifestyle. That's the big thing for me and a big focus right now, more than anything.
Speaking of lifestyle, do you feel like an electric vehicle is, can it survive in South Africa? Because personally, I feel like I'm seeing the problem we have with electricity, and I know the EVs, the charging stations around South Africa are powered by solar, if I'm not mistaken. And my friend and I were doing some calculations with the I-Pace, right? And we said that if you have to take it from Joburg to Cape Town, there's about I think 4 charging stations along the way, right? And let's say it takes you about 30 minutes to charge to full capacity if you go from 50%. Then we realized it'll take you, I think we got 2 hours more to get to Cape Town than if you had just used like a normal vehicle. So I just wanted to ask, with the current the current electrical problem we have in the country, will people still be drawn to purchase an electric vehicle because they want to save the planet?
Look, I think it's more. It has to do with just that, more than that mindset of I want to do my bit and save the planet. Yes, that's the whole idea behind EVs, but essentially also as products, cars and everything else included evolve, we're looking at what other alternative energy sources are there to power what we use and what we used to. So the whole idea about or that whole thing about EV mindset and lifestyle, it's all about whether it makes sense to you. For me, I approach it as just another alternative, power source, energy source, more than anything. But the whole principle around EVs is pretty much similar to how I approach, petrol or diesel vehicles, with bearing that, you have to consider charging times, and all of that. I mean, charging times is most probably the most, eye-opening factor more than anything, or the worrisome one for some people when they think about EVs, because for them that 2-hour charging, they could be doing something else. But then again, my argument is always that 2 hours where you're doing something else, yes, your car is just idling. You don't need your car to be doing that something else. You get it?
Yeah, I get it.
So that's how I approach it, and the mindset that I kind of like instill in people. And yes, I understand, when it comes to EVs, you have to always think, you definitely have to change your mindset in the sense of you can't just approach it and how you use it as you would a normal petrol vehicle or a diesel car.
Yeah.
First of all, yes, it's that whole charging factor and the time behind it. But you have to think about or plan your day ahead in the sense of where will you be charging, how long will it take you to charge, what if someone else is using that charger that you intended to use, what are you going to do, what other alternatives do you have then?
Yes.
I mean, it's all part of the bigger picture. But then again, in hindsight, you can always charge at home. You can't omit that. You can do that. Charge at home. You can still install a wall box if you want to. Just charge from your normal plug point, given the extensions and everything that your car come with. So it's not really a hurdle as such. It's just learning to live with that change in mindset more than anything. When it comes to load shedding, this one is pretty much twofold in the sense of, I think about it as, just think about it as your smartphone. You wouldn't necessarily wait for it to go flat or to die for you to charge it. Any given chance that you have, if it gives you anxiety, your phone is at 50%, you would charge it, no?
Yes.
So that's the kind of same concept I would say you should approach your EV at. If you see that it's at 50% and let's say you're not using it, you're at home, then charge it, because you have the chance to do that. You have the free time or the spare time when you're not using the vehicle, then plug it in so that it stays charged up. And whenever you need to use it, you're ready to go. And when it comes to load shedding, unfortunately, we don't have power banks for EVs. Yeah. But I mean, not the entire city is offline. So if your area is affected by load shedding, you can always find another area next to yours that has power and a public charger that may be online, and you can make use of that. And nowadays we even have, public charging stations that are powered by solar, so they're not on the grid at all. Example is the one at Mall of Africa.
Yes.
They make use of solar, chargers or solar panels to charge, the batteries up, and you can charge your vehicle from that. And there are many others that are also public that use, solar panels for their energy. But then again, someone else could argue that, and of course myself included, I could argue that as soon as you drive out of the big cities, it becomes a problem for you to charge, and rather impossible for you to live with an EV. And of course, yes, I understand, and it's one of my arguments as well when speaking to these big brands and people that actually install this public infrastructure, is that they're so focused on our primary target audience are people in affluent areas, and we should cater for them first, but forgetting that other people as well, not necessarily within those affluent areas, are able or are keen or want to buy into EVs, but they don't have public infrastructure in the area. So it's another thing or another discussion that we could go on about as to why these affluent areas are prioritized above everything else. Because I do know of people that are actually Kokasi, people that are, in the outlying areas that would love to own an EV, but they don't have public charging infrastructure in their areas. So it's all of these aspects, man, that build into this whole EV talk and the industry and how it actually can grow in South Africa. So Yeah, that's my kind of like 2 cents on it. I know it's a mouthful, and I kind of deviated from your last question there a bit.
No, it's okay, man. Because I feel like like this is supposed to be informative, and I feel like you're really teaching me and the listeners about this, and like just to
Mm.
stay, just as we stay on the topic of charging, like by any chance, can you give like a rough estimate of like how much you paid at Mall of Africa to charge the EQS? Like, is the price for charging a vehicle the same across the spectrum, or or is it different? What's this? Do you pay a different price depending on who's providing it? Like the Audi one at Mall of Africa, and
Mm.
there's a different brand, if I'm not mistaken, at Clearwater. Yeah.
Yeah. So the whole thing is you get charged a set fee for per unit. It's similar to the electricity you would buy at home, right?
Yes.
For your set area, and please excuse me if I'm wrong, but I would know that me being in Johannesburg, I wouldn't pay the same rate per unit as someone that's hypothetically, or as an example, someone that's maybe in Mafikeng. We wouldn't pay the same, price per unit. But when it comes to EVs and charging, it's the same thing, sort of, with one, supplier that gives you your public charges like grid charge. You have a set unit, a set price per unit. But then if you're using another supplier, I'm not so familiar with their names anymore. There's so few of them. Some of them are EV charge or something.
Yeah.
You pay another different price per unit to use their services. So that's where the difference comes in. So, for instance, the one at Sandton City, which is by Grid Cars, I know I will pay R4.88 per unit.
Yeah.
And the one at Mall of Africa, because it's supplied by someone else, I will pay a different price, which is, if I'm not mistaken, R4.60. Which is just about 20 cents difference.
Okay.
But that's how it kind of like works. But then again, the other determining factor is the actual car that you have and the speed it can take with charging. Similar to smartphones, we know that, look, when you have an entry-level or mid-range phone, it'll take you about maybe 2 hours to charge to full. And then when you have a more premium device, a phone, with super fast charging features, it'll take you about 40 minutes to charge it to full, etc. So, given that example, your cars also differ like that. So, for instance, the Mercedes-Benz EQS has super fast charging, support, which means that it can charge from maybe about 20% to 100 in that 40 minutes. Where an entry-level Mercedes for the brand, electric one EQA, will take you about an hour and a half to charge from 20 to 100% or 80. So that's the other determining factor for how much you'll pay. It's the speed of the car, the charging speed of it. Number two is the supplier of your public charging infrastructure and how much they ask per unit. So you'll be obviously paying per unit. The other cost that determines is the speed of the charge, because the more faster it is, the more expensive it'll get. And then again, it's the time that you'll be using the public charger for. So that all determines exactly how much you'll be paying for your charge on your vehicle, if that makes sense. So if I were to, make the example with the Mercedes-Benz EQS, and the one that I posted about, that one I paid, it was around about 400 Rand to charge that vehicle to full. Yeah. And compared to if I were driving a petrol vehicle, which for the same range of about 500, I would have paid about 1.3 to 1.5 to fill up the tank of the vehicle. So you can see the price difference there that comes into play when we're looking at EVs versus petrol or diesel cars. But then again, someone else, to put a spanner into our discussion, will then argue that 40 minutes to me is a lot of money. I don't have 40 minutes to be charging the car. but then again, it's all about your lifestyle. In that 40 minutes, I just left the car there, went to a coffee shop, went to work, and I came back after a meeting and a few emails, and I was ready to go on with my day. So it's all about the lifestyle again, the end of the day, and, how exactly, you, and excuse my lack for a better word, you choose to, I don't know, live out your life and plan out your day more than anything. And really what is important to you and what makes more sense to you. And I know, Peace, again, people might argue that, EVs are about twice or three times the price of a normal petrol car. But then again, there are other factors to consider, because your EV, you won't take it for servicing. The only thing that major servicing that you'll do on an EV is change your tires. There's no engine for any, problems that might occur. You don't have to, do oil change, anything of that sort. And you don't have to replace your battery cells anytime soon. They can last you up until 15 years of regular use. So, that's the only major change, which will be your tires and most probably your brake pads. And then you're good to go. So there are all these factors to consider, man, and see exactly how it will fit into your lifestyle and make things easier for you. But then if not, then it's probably wiser to stick to a petrol or a diesel car.
Okay. I normally have this conversation with my friends that, things that like solar, electric vehicles, just things that are supposed to better the planet, they cost a lot, and it's only because you buy them once, like when you want to set up the solar for the house, because you don't have to replace them after like maybe a year, So the same thing with the cars. I've noticed that the pricing for the electric cars is kind of hefty, but then when you think about it, you're paying it once, like you said, you might the next time you need to change something drastic will be maybe in 15 years, like the simple brake pads, the tires, the wear and tear stuff, like the small things, that can be done literally anytime, and it's not that pricey compared to taking your car in for service every like 5 months or so, So
definitely, man.
Because personally I feel like electric vehicles aren't getting the proper recognition they are getting, because I feel like the only thing that we're hearing is Tesla this, Tesla that, I don't watch a lot of TV, but I do watch TV. But on the ads, I'm not seeing electric vehicles being promoted as they are when maybe I'm streaming like a football game online, and then during halftime the ad comes, and let's say if I'm streaming from England, then there's an ad about promoting an electric vehicle, they say, oh, this car can go this range, it costs this much, they're actively promoting it because they want people to buy electric vehicles. But I feel like here we don't see that, literally I feel like the last time there was like information about an electric vehicle was when I don't know if it was last year or the year before that, there was a Tesla car in South Africa for the first time. And yes, and I think it was only here for a review, that's it, and then it left again, and that was literally like the only time electric vehicles were being talked about, so so I feel like when as a country as a country that promotes like renewable resources and all that stuff, I feel like we need to do more when it comes to the electric vehicles, because I feel like if done correctly, it can be the future, if you get me.
Mm.
Because
No, certainly.
yeah, because thing is, if what's this? I didn't know that they were charging grids, like around Johannesburg. I was like, it was when I did my research, and I was like, wow, I can have an electric car where I stay, right? And I can go to Clearwater, I can go to from Clearwater, I can go to Mall of Africa, I can go to Sandton, I can go to the airport, and thing is, they don't tell us these things unless you're in a specific atmosphere, if I can say, like a group. I would say, like, obviously it's not like a private WhatsApp group, but then like you need to own a what's this? You need to own an electric vehicle to know where all of this is.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So
No, I completely get you, and it all has to do with education, man. And it's unfortunate that the people behind the brands that are obviously selling these electric cars, when they do all their awareness and educational drives to just look at people that could potentially buy the cars, just they don't look at the bigger scope at educating everyone first, and then maybe zone into the direct marketing to potential buyers or people that could qualify for that.
Yeah.
And this is the whole thing for me that I also struggle, and I also is feedback that we give these brands is that in their education and all these awareness drives, they need to widen the scope up to educating everyone and making everyone aware of how the products work, where you can find the chargers, etc. And all these things, not just talk to this group. And to your point, it's not a WhatsApp group, but let's call them the elite.
Yes.
To this group that can potentially afford these vehicles only. Because it's only then when you're in this group and you're in this circle and you're either invited or you're being engaged by the brand, you would find out more that, listen, there's about 200 chargers across the country and the bulk of them are in Johannesburg, and you can actually find them within a 3-kilometer radius of from where you are at any given point. So it's rather, for me personally, it's rather weird. And of course, it's feedback that we've given these brands, of myself as a journalist and an EV driver, that they need to be more inclusive in, all these awareness drives. But yeah, look, we can also, as journalists and, people that have these public platforms, can only do so much. But these people with the money, which are the people behind the brands and all of them, can do more than we can, but they choose not to. But in any case, that's a discussion for a different day, and we could actually go on and on about that. But yeah, it's actually this hard thing, man, of how exactly they're doing or choosing to approach the whole thing.
Yeah, man. Honestly, like I personally, I just wish that, I'm a big fan of electric vehicles. I'm not a car fanatic, but I just really like how electric vehicles work,
Yeah.
And like I personally want to see in the upcoming years, like these charging stations being available like at universities, like I want, because like there's excuse me, there are so many like students who drive to campus, and I feel like when an institution as big as a varsity can just promote like these electric vehicles and have the charging points inside their campuses, I feel like that will give more recognition, and on top of that, it will teach the younger generation that, hey, look, you don't need to you don't need to buy like a diesel car or a petrol car. You can buy an electric one, which will cost a little bit more, but then on top of that, it will last you longer.
Yeah. In that, in the same breath, I think as with all new technology, as it comes in or gets introduced to a market, obviously it will be expensive. But
Yes.
as years go by and the uptake is there and people start buying into EVs and they know exactly how they work and, you know, how they can fit into their lives, we'll see it becoming, you know, cheaper. I think the reason why brands such as, you know, your VW, which we know them for, and Toyota, which we know them for more affordable cars, they don't have them in the countries yet, but you'll find that in other markets they do. It's because for them, they're about mass market and selling affordable vehicles,
Exactly.
entry-level vehicles.
Yes.
But the minute they play in the EV space right now, that car is going to be so expensive that it doesn't make sense in the whole lineup from that specific brand. So that's why they're not introducing models in the country as yet. You know, the reason when you ask them, even publicly on socials, why they're not introducing electric vehicles, they'll give you the standard PR response, which is they're still undergoing studies, etc., etc. But we all know that if they were to introduce it, it would be expensive, and people would frown upon, you know, that notion of, how do you expect me to buy a VW electric car, which is the same size as a Polo, at about 1.2 million rand? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So that's why they're holding back for now. But obviously we'll see as, you know, more and more people take up on EVs and they become sort of the norm and they become cheaper, then the brands will start introducing these EV models. We do have the infrastructure. It's there already. It's been proven by big brands or premium brands, your BMWs, your Audis, your Mercedes, your Volvo. Even Nissan, remember, they were the first one to bring in an EV with the Leaf about close to 20 years ago. So we have seen that infrastructure isn't really a hindering problem. It is, you know, as soon as you go into outlying areas, yes, it is a problem. But in your big cities where your mass consumers are, and people that have, you know, the funds or could potentially afford vehicles, its infrastructure isn't really a problem. So yeah, I think, man, as time goes, obviously proliferation gets there and people uptake on the vehicles becomes higher. We'll see prices drop and more EVs entering the market. I'm super keen to see those from, you know, your Chinese brands such as your Havals and them. When they bring in EVs, exactly what price points they'll be, you know, putting them at. Whether they'll still be, you know, sort of like premium, or they will undercut and come a bit cheaper compared to, you know, the petrol cars and what. But yeah, it's exciting times, but only time will tell.
Okay. Yeah. So just to finish off, I just have one more question, and
Sure.
that is like, do you feel like, do you think there'll be more EVs on the road in the future? Like in the near future, like let's say within 10 years?
I think so. I really think so. I know we have an energy crisis locally, but I feel like there are other means to get that energy, that power, solar being one of them. But I also think that maybe hydrogen cars have a future locally. If energy is really such a big crisis here, I think hydrogen cars would really set the tone and people would be more comfortable taking up hydrogen cars, I think. But I certainly think that South Africa, first and foremost right now, or maybe in the next 10 years, hybrid cars more than anything would make far more sense, and our people, consumers, would be more comfortable adopting those. I think it will be hybrids first and then maybe EVs. But I think maybe in the next 15 to 20 years, I can say yes, definitely more EVs as people get used to the whole concept of electric vehicles. But the one thing that really amazes me, and I know I'm going on, that amazes me about South African consumers and the landscape in general, is that as much as we get fascinated by new technology and things, our people are eager and keen to try them out and see exactly how they work. Yes, there will be that few on social that are like, no, EVs aren't going to work, etc. but there'll still be a good chunk that go out there and actually buy the product, as you know, given that they can afford it and all that, which is one thing, you know, that makes us special. I think we, as new as things might be and as strange as it might be, people actually will take up on it and try it out for themselves more than anything. So yeah, that's it.
Papi, I just wanted to say thank you, man. Thank you for taking the time, you know, to come into the podcast and just inform the people about, you know, electric vehicles and how they are running and how they are available in South Africa. There are charging points, you know. Thank you so much, man. I really do appreciate it.
It's only a pleasure, man. It's only a pleasure. And thank you for having me.
Thank you. So, for everyone listening, I will leave a link on the YouTube channel to Papi's YouTube channel, and also a link to his article that he wrote about electric vehicles. I think the one on the website was for the EQS, but then there's also others with regard to the VW, the BMW, you know. So yeah, guys, thank you so much. Thank you for listening. It's been your boy Peace J, and keep well, and hope to get some positive feedback from you guys, and stay well.